Today we're going to be looking at how to stay creative and set yourself limits. Welcome to the DesignCast, and welcome back to another episode of the DesignCast. Got a little bit off script today because I haven't got the script in front of me, but just want to let you know I am back for the DesignCast podcast every Friday. If you don't know who I am, I'm Stephen Underwood. I'm a graphic designer, artist and photographer now. Yes, I have always been an artist. Graphic design is a type of art, and so is photography, but add it to the mix because I've got a little bit of news and that sort of relates to today's episode. So, a few things to start with that have nothing to do with the podcast. One, I've just moved house, as some of you may know. So, regarding the podcast and my YouTube channel, that won't be quite coming yet. It's going to be a little bit delayed. So, if you follow me on my YouTube, don't worry, it will be coming back. But until I sort things out, get my room decorated and things properly organised, and finding things packed away in boxes, the YouTube channel is just on the back burner for a minute, and this podcast I'll try and put out as often as possible, hopefully every Friday. If it gets missed here and there, you know why. Also, you may have noticed an upgrade in audio quality because I have now got myself a new microphone, which sounds a lot better for this podcast and for my YouTube, so it's got multiple purposes. And also, a bit more related to the podcast now, is I may have told you before, I can't remember, I've now started an art and design foundation course. I'm a student from the UK, so if you don't know how the education system works in the UK, I can't really help you out, but this is in the UK only, anyway, from what I know. And I've only been there a few days, but relating to this episode of the podcast, I've really noticed quite a few things about this course that I'm doing that really brought out my artistic side that I never sort of realised I had as much, and by that I mean more of my physical art side. So what I want to focus on in this podcast is sort of that, is sort of how you can start simple and get better, which is what I'm going to come on to. So at the start of this sort of art foundation course I've been taking, which I started on Monday, so when the podcast started, it'll be the Monday of the week the podcast was released. But yeah, basically we started really simple. We started to draw lines with different equipment, different media such as chalk, charcoal, different things like that. So we started with black lines, different thicknesses, different ways of using the media, thicker, thinner lines, big thick ink brush strokes with brushes, paint. And then we have to do a whole sheet of curved lines, sort of wavy, curve to the side with a little bit of a shape in it. And then we have to do a sort of crazy one, where the lines are just sort of going all around the page, and sort of curved, straight, whatever, all over the place. It's almost like a bit of a mess, deliberately. And then the last one we have to do is black on white. Now, these sound quite simple things when you come to actually doing them, and they weren't hard. I'm not going to say they weren't challenging. They did challenge my mind, which is why I'm talking about this, because I really found it was something that allowed me to think more creatively, which I didn't actually realise was something that would help me by challenging myself. And I have sort of heard this discussion before about setting yourself boundaries and limits actually releases more creativity, which is what I really have found out. So this whole podcast really is focused on how if you set boundaries and limits, it really does help release your creativity, whether that be in photography, art, singing, design, dancing, whatever your art form is. Just give yourself some limits and boundaries to really help that creativity flourish. And another thing is today, on this course, we were doing painting. Simple painting with black and white, no colour, just black and white paint onto paper. we had to split the paper into 16 squares. I do apologise, that is my cat in the background. So we had to split our sheet into 16 rectangles. It was a big A1 sheet. And then we had to basically use the black and white paint however we wanted, with whatever tools we liked. Now it sounds like there's not much of a boundary there, but what really makes you struggle is you've got a paintbrush, you might have a ruler or something to scrape it with, maybe a pencil, a pen, and that was about it. But once you started using those, you sort of looked at the boxes you were filling in, and you realise, I don't know what else I can do with this. But that's when you tick and it changes, because your brain makes you think that you can't do any more, you haven't got any more ideas. And this is the weirdest part that I've really discovered about myself, and I've heard this from other people as well, is you can use these tools and things in ways that you would have never used them before. For example, I was using the paintbrush round the opposite way to what you normally use. I was using the handle of the paintbrush to actually create marks in these spaces. And honestly, that was just a start. Then I started finding other things. I used a lid off a pot, and I think I used a tin can, so you have like the ridged edges of a tin can. I use the outside of a Costa cup, sort of the textures and the patterns. It's just things I have lying around in the space with me. I even use my fingers. My hands are absolutely covered in paint. But it just really goes to show, when you set these boundaries and limits, how your brain can just flip things over on its head and really flourish with your creativity. And I don't think it doesn't just apply to physical art. This applies to any art form. So I'm yet to do this sort of technique with my graphics and that. So if you're taking photos of graphics, they sound boundaries, limits to really push yourself and create things that you've never made before. I think that really is a good way. If you're stuck, which I have been, if I'm being honest, I've been a little bit stuck for the last sort of few months, few weeks, where I've been moving house, lots of things have been going on, coming to the end of my A-levels, just doing so many things. I've just come to a sort of mental block of, well, effectively like an artist sort of designer's block, which you hear loads about on the internet. But I really think setting boundaries and limits really helps push away from that sort of feeling, or just give yourself even more ideas. And I'm going to be honest, I can't wait to see what else I can actually do. And I was so surprised with myself. I think it's really the breaking point for me today in the last few days, where I've been exploring things that I don't always explore. Like, I like using paint, I like doing the physical side to art, but I am more graphics or digital based when it comes to design and art. But now I'm starting to enjoy more physical side of things, because I'm setting those boundaries to really help push myself. And then, as I have done before in my other courses and things I've done in the past, I've been able to sort of put them together. But I think now I've stretched myself even more, I'm going to be able to do that even better and more cohesively to create better things. Now, because I've only just started this course, we haven't gone into loads of things yet, but what I was told is that, what I was told is that they push us in to try and start with something so basic it almost feels childlike, and then you build it up after that to really advance your skills. And I really think that is a good way to go about any art. It just amazed me. It clicked in my brain straight away. I was like, why haven't I done this sort of thing before? Because it just makes everything amazing. So I really do want to say, if you're struggling in art, design, photography, whatever art form it is, fashion design, textiles, graphics, photography, just push yourself. Give yourself limits, big or small, and push yourself. So, when we were doing this painting today, did 16 little squares, then we had to pick one, then we had to develop it with the same tools, then develop it again with those same tools, then make a bigger version of it, and we had to figure out how to make the tools bigger to use on a bigger piece of paper, which it was things like such simple things, giving yourself limits. So you had to make a bigger tool. It's not like, I could use the small one and make it look the same, or use something else to make it look similar, we had to we had to come up with our own ideas for the tools as well as a way of designing or making that bigger piece. And also they were saying to start with, it doesn't really matter if it doesn't look good, because it's not whether it looks good or bad. We've at the moment sort of been focusing more on abstract pieces, which I guess you can sort of get. I really do apologise. So with sort of abstract pieces, to start with, it sort of gets your brain whirring and creativity flourishing, as I've been saying. So I think if you're not like looking for precision or anything like that, at least to even get your feelings out or get your art or design work flowing, just set yourself some boundaries and really push yourself. I don't think you can really go wrong, because there's no one saying it's right or wrong, it's how you perceive it. It's if you think it's good, then someone else will like it, some people might not, but that is art and design all over. So I think if you're really struggling or want to really go for it, just go for it. Don't stop yourself and create those boundaries. So I hope you have enjoyed listening to the podcast today. I am hoping to get some guests on here soon, as I have been trying to hunt down a few people. I've not had any luck so far, but if you are listening to this podcast and you'd like to help and come on for a chat, or like to suggest any topics or ask any questions, you can email us thedesigncastpodcast@gmail.com. That's thedesigncastpodcast@gmail.com. And finally, if you want to see past podcast episodes, whether that be visually or audibly, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or you can watch us at the DesignCast Podcast on our YouTube channel. This podcast and a few to go on until I get my YouTube sorted and things up and running. You won't see the visual, but we will still upload it to our YouTube if that's your preferred way of listening. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this, and don't forget, you can also visit our website, www.thedesigncastpodcast.com. So yeah, I think that's everything, and thanks for listening.